So, these are all my soap scraps from my bathroom shower. Over time, as I have these, I'll take one of these and put it on the sink. So when I go in to wash my hands, I do that. And so those little pieces on the sink wind up doing this. Soap scraps from soap that I make. So from about 1996 to 2002, I was a soap maker. But I'm showing you these scripts and pieces because I don't throw them away. They're all different fragrances and things, but I don't waste soap, and neither should you. Many years ago, when I used to buy commercial soap, I would also save my scraps. So what I'm going to show you is how I take these scraps, and depending, and my soap is really hard, depending on what kind of soap you have, whether you've got commercial soap or you buy only handmade soap, or you make your own handmade soap, it depends on what you want to do. Sometimes I take a grater, hold on. My oven just got to 350 degrees. I'm heating up some food in the oven. So anyway, I'll take a grater, take a piece of the soap, and I go through the process of grating it down. Now the soap is really too soft, I think, to use a chopper or food processor, but if it's hard enough, you know, you might, or you got enough of it, you might want to use that. Okay, so I've gone through the process and I've grated it down. I want it small, and it's sticky because this has been in the bathroom and in the shower area, because I just, as they get small, I just throw them in the pile and pull up. Oh, this one smells really good. It's gardenia. Oh, I love gardenia. It is just, so this soap is going to have all kinds of smell. It's rose, there's lavender, I think probably in here there's an orange vanilla. Okay. So I'm going to go on and get all of this chopped up, because you want it small. And the next process is, how do I melt the soap to get it really soft? And then where do I put it to form the new bars in there. So I'll be back after I've finished chopping up all of this and put it in the pot. Oops. So I've gotten my soap all done as far as grating it out. There's tons of soap stuck to my grater, and my hands got all soapy, and because some of the soap is soft. So one of the things that I'm going to do with this, I have to get a spoon, is I'm going to make some, what do I want to call it, soapy water, some hand soap for when I'm working outside in the garden, and because my hands get all dirty and I want to wash them before I come in. So this is a soda bottle, and the lid I put on it is like what you get to put in a wine bottle, or a bottle that you're going to use for vinegar or oil, and I'm just going to mix it there. So this is a soda bottle. And what I'm going to, so right now what's in here is filtered water. I've got about halfway up. I went out in my garage to find my stash of all the soap making stuff I had, and I went through the pile of fragrances, and I found this one. Where are you? It is from Wellington Fragrance, and it's an 8-ounce bottle, and it's Lang Lang. Now the reason it's in this little plastic thing is because a pinhole had developed in it, and I didn't want it spilling out all over the place. So I put some Lang Lang in the water. Now, it's not, oil and water is not going to mix, because this is fragrance oil. It is not fragrance liquid or an essence of a liquid, like you boil the flour in the water, and you get the essence, or your ginger, Now, this is oil, so it's not quite mixed. But what I'm going to do, and I'll probably do most of this off camera, is I'm putting all these I'll put a bunch of little pieces, well, bigger pieces, the ones that I really could get made small, alright, of the pieces here. Let's see what else I have here, some more, but I'm going to put quite a few of these in the bottle. And then every so often I'm going to come by and I'm going to shake it up, because, so here's some nice big pieces. I haven't totally gotten, they're soft. Right. So these should melt pretty good in the water. Now, there are times when I will boil water and I'll have it really hot, but I found that it is not necessary. So you could do all this in water before you pour it into the jar, but I just decided I'm not going to dirty up another piece of, or a different pot, okay? So I'm going to keep putting some in here, and then once this is done, and this will sit, now especially if I sit it outside in this 90-some degree heat here in Texas. Okay, some of this stuff is falling off. I'm going to put it over the container here. Yeah, you can't see it because I'm not turning the camera around. Anyway, so I'm going to put quite a bit in here, and what's going to happen is it's going to become, and I'll shake it every so often as the soap begins to melt in the water. So I gave it a little bit of the Lang Lang. I really should have probably used the eucalyptus since I'm going to be outside, or the peppermint, right? Because peppermint seems to repel things. So, but the Lang Lang will work. And besides, I need to use it up before it all disappears from anything. So yeah, it might be better instead of trying to put it in the bottle. Okay, my hands are all soapy. Now put it like this. I'm going to cover the hole. And I'm just going to shake it. As you see, it's soapy. So it's probably more than enough soap in here. And I'll probably just add more water over time. But I have some soapy water. Let's see. And as you can see, well, part of this is, let me rinse this off and let's do it again. Because I had soap on my hands already, so that's naturally going to be soapy. Okay, so now I've rinsed my hands off. So most of the soap is off from being there. Alright, and we are shaking this. You can probably use the original lid to rinse, but here's my soapy water. So I'm outside. And look at this. Oh, and it smells good. Can you see the suds? I don't know. But it's suds. A little bit more. I'm not worried because my soap, as I told you before, has a little bit of extra oil. So it is nice and smooth. Now the other thing I could add to this is I've got some vitamin E oil. Alright. So hopefully you can see the soap suds. So as the soap melts, it's going to give me some nice soapy water. So you could take this, or a nicer jar lid, or you could take, now this is, I'm going to cover the label, but you can have a jar like this. Alright, and you could, so, or you can buy jars at you know, at the store and put it next to your sink. And so you can use up your soap. So this is more than enough. In fact, I probably should add some more filtered water. Don't use, I don't use tap water for my soaps. When I'm making soap, I use distilled water or bottled water, because I don't want all the minerals and the chlorine and all that that's in the water coming from the sink. But here's one way that you can chop up your soap scraps and create your own lead hand wash. Now, the other thing I can do, which I may do, which I probably will do, got to rinse the soap off my hands in a moment, is I'm going to add probably a teaspoon of colloidal silver to this. Now, those of you who don't know, you can do your research on colloidal silver, but it is an antiseptic, antiviral, antibiotic. So it kills all the nasties. So that'll make it easier to be on side. Or if you want, you could put a little bleach in there to help you. But I prefer my colloidal silver. It's less toxic. It's not toxic, as a matter of fact. So I put a little colloidal silver in there, and it can sit outside next to my faucet or my hose. And when I'm finished working outside, I can wash my hands outside. I can also use it to wash off my spade and my tools that I'm using outside. So this has a lot of uses. So this is one use for your soap scraps, which I've got all over here. Alright, I'm going to go away, wash my hands, and then I'm going to come back and talk about this square. So give me a moment. Okay, so what do I have here? I have here what is referred to as melt and pour soap. It's glycerin soap. It is, you could find this in your, like Joann's or Michael's or any type of craft store, right? And this was called exfoliating soap. Now, whether this is available or not, I don't know. This came from Surrey Inc. in Leander, Texas, but this is really old. I told you I was making soap, and I still have a lot of my soap making supplies. But you should be able to go online and find glycerin soap. I'll see when I'm doing the editing, I'll look for a couple places I know that I can still go to find fragrance and other soap making supplies. So this is in little squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 times 8, 40 squares. Now, The other thing I have out in my garage is a no, it's not 25. Yeah, it is. A 25-pound bucket of melt and pour soap. This happened to be a piece from a bucket that I completed. The other bucket is out there and I haven't even touched it yet because I'm not crazy about melt and pour soap. I use it to make things like with oatmeal. You'll see clear soaps, and those are we refer to these in the soap making industry as melt and pour. And why are they called melt and pour? Because I can put them in there, put it on the heat and melt it. And then it's designed like this one. It's called glycerin, see, exfoliating soap. A special soap formulator which allows for the suspension of exfoliating additives which gently scrub away old cells, leaving your skin feeling fresh and renewed. You can put oatmeal in this, you can do salt, you can do sugar, you can do, what else? Some people would put coffee grounds in it to use for gardening soap and all that kind of stuff. Well, one of the things that makes it easy, because when you add water to try to make this melt, it thins it out. And so normally what I do with my soaps, once I do this, when I am making a new batch of soap, so for this purposes of this, I've got all this stuff in my garage I've got to use up. So I went out there to cut some pieces off my 25-pound container. I found this one that was loose, and I found this that was already in there, and this thing is really hard. So normally you get to take it, and so the reason there's these blocks, because when you're doing your soaps, so it's easy to cut. Take the plastic wrap off. And what I'm going to do for now so like I said, Hobby Lobby was the other one I was trying to remember. Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Joann's, online for your craft stores, and just look up melt and pour soap. Take one more row. I'm going to put it on the stove, and all I'm going to do is put it on the burner. I'm not going to put it on camera. I'll put it on the burner on very low heat until this is melted. And once it's melted, I'm going to come back on camera, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with the melted thing. So remember, very low heat. It's going to take it a while, not long, because this stuff melts pretty quickly. Very low heat. Okay, it's melting really nicely. I do have it on the number 2. I said I wasn't going to show you, but you know, some people you really need to show you, so here it is. Okay, I shouldn't have said that, but truly, some people want to see. So we're about halfway there, and if you see, it's pretty runny, very runny. Now what I'm using the melt and pour soap for is, like I said, I'm not crazy about it because it's really not that great for your skin, but I'm just showing you a way that you can take soap scraps with some new soap. Okay, well, I've turned the fire out because it was smelling. I still got a couple of small pieces. That big piece, that older piece I told you about, well, it took a little longer to melt than the others, so I took a knife and came in and split it up. I should have split it. There's still a little piece on there that hasn't totally melted. So now this melt and pour is done. So what do we think that is? About 1.5 cups of soap right now. Okay, let's get a little closer. All right. So what do I have? Well, I have this. Now, some of you who used to fly with American might recognize this. I had a whole ton of these. I talked to the stewardess, and I would say, what are you going to do with these? And they were going to throw them away. Well, before they got, I'd say, can I have them all? So they would save all this as they collected them from everybody after you got your little sandwich. This is when they used to feed you on long flights, right? And so I had a ton of these, and I used them as molds for my soap. I also used 3-inch PVC pipe cut in 12-inch strips. So this is one of those. I know you're not going to get one of these, but you can get something like this. And this is from a pound of mushrooms. So you can find the containers, so all kinds of containers. I prefer these because they're flexible on the side, and you can push them in and push the soaps out while they're still soft. Okay, so now this is, let me come out a little bit. So this is still warm, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of these soap pieces and I'm putting it in here. I'm not going to do them all, just a bunch. Okay? And mix them in with the melt and pour. Okay, look at that. I'm going to mix a little bit more. Now I told you all of these had different fragrances, so it's going to get, all these different fragrances are going to get mixed up in here. Alright, so this is method number 2. Now, as I told you earlier, I have some apple. I'm going to take a capful. You don't need a lot. Actually, you don't need this much. But I like strong flavor. And this is like green apple. Alright. So now I've got my it's nice and strong. Alright, now I probably could put some more in here, but I am going to save this. So my third way is when I'm making soap from scratch. In a batch of my soap from scratch, I usually take some of my soap scraps and put it in enough soap to allow it that the melt and pour, when it solidifies around these soap scraps. Okay? Now it's not hard enough for these soap scraps to melt, but something inside of me is saying, why don't you put it back on the stove and let it heat up a little bit? And that's what I'm going to do. Well, it was a good thing I decided to put it back on the fire just for a little bit, because it was starting to solidify along the edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this right into my mold. You know, cleanup is easy because it's soap. I was thinking about when I'm making soap, I make it in a huge pot, you know, bigger than your soup pot. Just a huge soup pot. And I make it, and see, it's already starting to solidify on the top. Okay. See? Already it's getting solid. So, okay, I am back, and the soap has solidified. It's still warm. but I want to take it out of the container. Now, one of these things is when you're taking it out, you got to be careful. Now, if I didn't want to save the container, I would just tear the sides. I've done this when I had a ton of these little things. I took care of the sides and tore it apart, which more than likely I may have to do with that. So by having, so it tore anyway. So off it goes. Remember, this is, what's this thing? 2000, 20 years old. So if you're using a mushroom container, pick something that's throwaway, because it may stick. Now, you could put some oil. Nah, I wouldn't put oil. You could put some release, like they do for candles. You can spray the inside of it for release. But look at that. It's all different looks. So let me pull out a knife. See which knife I'm going to pull out. I'm going to pull out my serrated edge. What's this? This is my Hinkle that I got at the thrift store for $1. And if any of you are familiar with J.A. Hinkles, this is probably a $100 knife. Now I'm going to, let's see, there's little marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to cut right in the middle of it. Sticking. But look how nice that looks on the inside. All these different little pieces. So what I'm going to do, there's this one little mark here. Now on this there's not too much, so you might want to measure from end to end. The important piece is that the bottom is smaller than the top. That was the way it was with this before I destroyed it. So I'm going to take this little edge right here and that's one piece. And you can make it wider, you can make it thicker. I'm just going to take this little notch that's on here and cut. And these are going to be a little bit thicker. Oh, it smells so good. That apple sounds so good. It is really warm on the inside. I probably should have come out a little earlier, but I was working on another video, editing a video on making sauerkraut that I made a while back. Alright, so right here. So what am I going to do with these? These are going to sit out for a while as they cool down and dry out. It's a little pretty. This one is really pretty. This one's got some looks. And some of the soap did melt while it was heating up, so the clearness of the melt and pour is gone. I'm going to cut this one. This in one is going to be a little larger than the other one. Alright. So out of those pieces, I still have a whole bunch of soap left. Okay. And all I need to do with this is put a little bit of water in it. Just a little. And slowly put on very slow stove and get it so that it melts down. This is what happens if you got a bad piece of soap or you want to redo some soap. I do this with other soap before. And so you just add a little water. I am not going to do that in this video, but this will be the third way that you can do it. Just put some water in here. And I'm serious when I say a little bit. start with an eighth of a, if you have this amount, start with about an eighth of a cup of water. I would start with that. And then I'd put just enough to cover the bottom, just enough so that I can stir, and then slowly have the fire on slow. So this will take a while until all of these soap scraps melt, and they will melt. They were melting here, but I didn't heat it long enough for all of them to melt because I wanted this look. Okay, so do that and then put it in a mold and pour it in and let it get hard. It will take longer for this one to get hard than this, because all we're doing is taking melt and pour soap designed to be melted and then adding our scraps to it. Oh, that green apple really smells good. Okay, doesn't overpower the other one. So these I would put in. No, I'm not going to put in there. I'm just going to find a tray. Right, I got a tray right here I just washed, and I'm just going to put them here. And yeah, this one is really much bigger than the others. Okay, and much bigger than the other NP. Small, so they're not even in size. So what it's going to mean is these that are thicker, these two are definitely thicker. This is the thinnest. It's going to take longer for them to cool down and get hard. This is going to take probably a couple of days. I didn't add any water to it, so that's the good piece. There's no water to dry out, but it still needs to cool down because the soap inside, these soap pieces, were soft and melted, and there was still some water inside of these pieces. That's why they're still a little sticky. Alright, but this is using melt and pour your soap scraps. This, I added some more soap and water to it, and now this, it's really, there's still soap scraps showing, and this is going to be some really soapy water that I'll be able to use outside. Alright, so one, adding it to water, warm water, putting a little bit of fragrance in it. You can put your perfume in it if you have it. Adding the soap scraps, make sure you use either filtered water, bottled water, distilled water. Do not use the water straight out of the tap. That's out. So that's one. This is two. Getting melt and pour soap, putting your scraps in it, melt down the melt and pour, and make this. And then the last one, which is add a little water and slowly melt it, and then putting it in a mold, letting it cool down till it's solid, and then cutting it into bars. So how many do I have now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 bars. This is going to probably make about 4 nice sized bars. 3 or 4 nice sized bars if you just melt it down and put it in the shape. This is more because we added the melt and pour shot. Okay, thank you very much. This is Beverly Fells Jones, the Silver Fox of Consciousness, and what I would like you to do is, if you like this video, to please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe, share if you know somebody who likes to save money and likes to do something a little different. And, you know, subscribe if you haven't, and hit that bell. And then I will see you, my little thing. Yeah, oh, so what am I going to do with this before I go? I'm going to use this to wash dishes. So I'm not going to wash this till I have a need for dishwashing, because this will make some really soapy water. And yes, even though there's fragrance in it, the dishes do get really clean. As I think I said earlier, when I make soap, we don't have to use dishwashing liquid for a while because we're using the soap from the big container. Anyway, see you in the next video.